Hello, everyone. How is it going today? I hope you had a good start to the week, and welcome back to another Tech Talk session with me, your host from Tech Jobs Fair. And today we are joined by our very special guest, Miss Miriam Owusu. She is a partner success manager in Fintech, a career coach, and a tech sales specialist, where she oversees partners' portfolio accounts. She works closely with accountants and businesses to implement a software platform that automates approval workflows. Hi, Miriam. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tripti, for having me. And I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing super good. Thank you so much. I'm really, really thrilled to have you join us today for this session. And I'm really, really looking forward to the insights that we'll get from you. And this is definitely going to be a game changer for all of our viewers out there because we're going to learn much more about the networking and how you can leverage that to, catapult your career, as our session title says. So, yeah, use networking as your catalyst to grow your career. Right, Miriam?
Amazing, exactly that.
Awesome. But before we dive into the conversation, I really want to take some time out for you so that you can share your journey with us that you've had in the industry so far.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tripti. So, hello everyone. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining. And it'll be good to find out where you're coming from. So, if you could drop it in the comment section. So, a bit about me. I've got about 10 years experience in sales, primarily in a variety of industries. So, for example, I used to be in the telecommunication industry. Then I moved into becoming a real estate agent for one of the top agents in London. Then I moved into the fintech world. And fintech has been a world where you continually grow and you learn. And I've also continued to use my platform to also coach people who are transitioning into the tech field because it isn't always easy. And, to utilize my experience, especially in sales and in tech, to also advise various different people and companies just generally.
Perfect. So I think you are like the exactly right person, to have you as a speaker today and tell our tech aspiring professionals who are looking forward to grow their career in this industry and a lot of people who are trying to transition into the industry, right? So I'm really, really excited. And guys, as we move along, if you have any questions that pops in your mind, please feel free to drop down them in the comment section. And yes, you can also actively participate with us through your comments. Right. So the first thing that I would like to ask you, Miriam, is where are you right now? Like currently, which stage are you at, professionally?
Yeah, so I'm currently at a very exciting stage because I'm doing several different things. So, one side of it, as you've mentioned, is a partner success manager where I manage a portfolio of accounts and support them. So, a lot of companies, for example, may buy software, but they may not know how to bring it into the company. So, you need somebody in between to support. So, that's part of my role. I would say, secondly, outside of work, I also do career coaching, as I've outlined. So, this was an area that I didn't anticipate I would go into, but because of what I do, a lot of people have reached out to me, particularly over the last year, asking for advice about how to transition into tech. And I
Yeah.
remembered when I was at that point in my journey where I was getting into tech and I realized how competitive it was, how difficult it was. And I now see it as an opportunity to give back and to support those who also want to, change their career. So that's also what I do. And of course, I've got an extensive experience in sales and in tech. So that's where I also take the time to advise people or companies about just tech sales in general. So that's where I'm at overall in my career.
Yeah. And, how has networking helped you throughout your journey so far for like a decade now, right? And maybe you could, tell us a little more on that. Like, how has networking helped you get through this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dripsy. So I would say it's probably best to start off with what is networking, because sometimes some people don't understand what networking is. So networking is very much, I put it simply as building relationships, and that could be professionally or personally. And there's
Yeah.
different reasons as to why you may do that. That it could be for career advancements, personal development. So that's the first thing. So even when I was understanding the whole world of networking, I had to understand what does it mean, and how can that be beneficial to me. Now, how networking has helped me, I would honestly say it's changed my life. And what do I mean by that? There's been many points in my career where I have just wanted to advance or get to the next step. And sometimes you may not have the resources or the insights or the knowledge to be able to do that on your own. And that's where networking is very key, because you can connect with people who may be a step or two or 10 years ahead of you in terms of their career. And they could really closely work with you and give you advice. Now, if you network correctly, and we can go into this later on, you build genuine relationships.
Yeah.
So people will be willing to not only support you for a session, but support you throughout your career. And till this day, I've got people who have been with me 10 years ago. I've got people who I've met 2, 3 years ago. I've got people that I've met earlier this year that have really just been on my journey and supported me every step of the way. So it
Mhm.
has really changed my life. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Because I see, a lot of people fear that to take the step or take the initiative towards maybe sending the first message, and I think that's where it has to start. But then, yeah, a lot of people do fear that. But yeah, you can tell us a little, maybe more on that, or how we could break that ice. So maybe out of 10, like, on a scale of 10, how important do you think networking is for people who are just starting their career or in fact growing their career, right? And how can we overcome those situations?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So on a scale of 10, I would say networking is probably 11. And I say 11 because I really want to emphasize the importance of it. And it's imperative
Okay.
that everyone who is, irrespective of whether you're um, self-employed or employed, everyone should really take networking seriously. Now, yeah, you asked a great, well, you mentioned a great point there. Networking can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're new to it. And I
Yeah.
remember when I was starting off with networking, I was worried, like, is this person going to like me? Are they going to have time to answer my questions? So, I resonate with that. I completely understand. So I want to tell anyone in the audience who may have those worries that it's okay. We've all been there. And that's the reason why we're here to support each
Yeah.
other. But some tips that I would give is, first and foremost, be yourself. Networking, as I said, is building genuine relationships with people. And if you're not your true authentic self, you won't be able to connect or build a rapport with people. That's so important, because as I've mentioned, when you're building your network, you don't want to build a network that is for the short term. Ideally,
Yeah.
you want to build a network that is for the long term. So by being yourself, you could do that. You never want to build a relationship with somebody and then, let's say, a year down the line, because you weren't yourself, they're almost like, who is this person that I've connected to? So that's
Yeah.
very, very important. And that will also help you to attract the right people around you. Um, so yeah, that's the first thing. I would also say utilizing platforms such as LinkedIn. There's so many other platforms, but I think LinkedIn is good because it's a professional platform. So unlike, let's say, Snapchat or Instagram, which may be a bit more informal, LinkedIn, you're able to connect with people in a professional capacity. So people are understanding of networking. So
Mhm.
let's say, for me, I'm a partner success manager and I wanted to become a bit more advanced in my career. I could find somebody who may be a senior partner success manager or a director on LinkedIn by just doing a quick search.
Yeah.
Then, what I would then advise anyone to do is connect, but not only connect, send a personal note. So, some people may or may not be familiar with LinkedIn, but you can add somebody. and not say anything, which I don't think is a good thing because you haven't really broken the ice. Whereas if you add somebody and you add a note saying, hey, great to connect, congratulations on your achievements, it could be as simple as that. You're already breaking the ice, you
Yeah.
know? So that's a few tips that I can give you for now.
Awesome. Yes, I truly agree with what you said and how we can utilize those platforms, in order to build our network. But I have like a small question there. A lot of people are super active on LinkedIn and they start networking when they're only looking for opportunities, right? And what do you say? Is that the right thing to do, or how we can go ahead with that when it comes to networking? Is it when you're actively looking for jobs, that's when you should start your full focus on networking, or maybe having your networks, like a trusted network built from earlier, could help you get a new role?
Yeah, yeah, that's a phenomenal point. So there's there's a few different approaches. So I would say it's always good to start your building your network irrespective of whether you're looking for a job or not. And the reason why I say that's important is because if you've already built your network prior to looking for a job, then those people or some of the people within your network could support you, whether it's in terms of reviewing your CV, interview tips and advice. Whereas if you're in the midst of applying for a job, as we all know, with jobs, sometimes it can move very quickly. You could have a first stage interview, a second stage interview, a third stage interview, all within a couple of weeks. So that in itself is pressure. And imagine at the same time having to rush and build a rapport with somebody. It's not going to be easy. So if you can do it beforehand, then that puts you in a good position. However, in saying that, I have been in positions where I've been actively looking for roles, and I have also taken that as an opportunity to network. Now, when I say network, I could be networking with people within that company that I'm wanting to go into.
Hmm.
Now, that could be very powerful. Why? You are able to get an insight into the company you're potentially going into from the
Yeah.
colleagues or employees already there. So if you approach it the right way, so let's say if you reach out to a person who is in that company whilst you're interviewing at that company, and you make it clear that I would it be possible if we could have a quick coffee, or if I can ask you some questions about the company, the culture, how the working environment is, they will be understanding that it may just be a quick conversation rather than having to build a long-term relationship, if that makes sense. So it can work both ways, and both ways could be very beneficial. But I think it's always good to definitely build your network beforehand. But equally, you could also build your network whilst you're actively looking for roles. It's not a problem.
And because you have transitioned, from one industry to another, and maybe from fintech, right? Especially you said, and tech industry is huge, right? It's like a big umbrella, and there's so many different categories in the tech industry itself. And like you said, the fintech being in, like, I think now growing rapidly. So do you still have, like, trusted network from your past, now that you've transitioned into a different industry? And do your network from your old industry, you know they could will they still be useful for you for your maybe upcoming roles, because now that you've transitioned the industry? So is that going to be still useful and helpful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, to give you an example, I'm 28 right now, and I'm still in contact with one of my teachers when I was around the age of, let's say, 14, 15. And we recently connected, and we met again in person. And although she may not be linked to the industries I'm in, she was a key person, particularly during my earlier stages of my life, who gave me the confidence to do things like public speaking or to
Yeah.
believe in myself. So those relationships are so, so, so important. And even though, let's say, if I'm doing a talk like this, she may not be able to advise me directly on it because she may not be familiar with the tech space, but she could remind me, of, if I'm nervous, for example, Miriam, you can do it. Believe in yourself. You know, she can help me in so many other ways. There's other spaces that I've been in whereby, like, let's say in previous roles that I've worked in, I'm someone that if I leave a job, I always make it a point to keep in contact with my managers, and not
Yeah.
just for the purpose of like references. I do apologize about the noise. There's rain in Ghana, um, but not just for the point of references, but they will all, like, a manager would always be a few steps ahead of you in terms of your career, so they could help you in so many ways. So one of my former managers, for example, he often likes to send me book recommendations because he could see what I'm doing, even in terms of like public speaking, and he may
Mhm.
say, okay, Miriam, this may be beneficial for you. Um, this could be beneficial for you. So, yeah, all of those people that I've previously built connections with have helped me today and will continue to help me, because there's so many things people can help you with, so many
Yeah.
skills, advice. It's not just necessarily relating to tech. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now that we've learned about building a relationship or building a network, maybe utilizing platforms that we have right now handy, so we can use all of that platforms to build a network. Can you share a little insights on how we can maintain the relationship, the network? Because as we move along in our career, professionally, personally, we tend to network with people who we think could help us to grow in the journey, right, in the path. So as we move along, we do have like a good relation, we had a good relationship with them, but how can we maintain it, as we move along? Because
Yeah.
maintaining is also one big, I think, important thing to do. So if you can tell us a little more on how we can maintain those relationships.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I would say the first thing is positioning your mindset to think that networking isn't just about you, it's also about the other person. Because if you navigate networking in the wrong way, it could come across as like you're trying to just make it a transaction. And I think if you approach it that way, like you're just going to people to just ask questions or just to take, then that in any relationship, whether it's networking or even in a family relationship, that may not sit
Yeah.
well with people. So it's about understanding that networking is mutually beneficial. So, for example, let's say if you've connected with a particular person on LinkedIn, right? And they are doing a talk. It could be like what I'm doing today. Take it, you could take an action to message that person to be like, good luck, or to even join their live to support them. So that shows that you are not just trying to take from them, you are also trying to add value, and if you look at any relationship, if you look at it like that, then you could build a long-term relationship, so that's the first thing. There's also things that I do, for example. So I always think, how can I give back? How can I give back? So if I've got, like, is there a podcast I can recommend? Or if I've got like a free resource, like whether it's
Mhm.
in relation to tech or my experience, could I send it to somebody in my network? Rather than thinking, what could they give me? What can I do to give to them? And I would also say another tip to help to build a long-term relationship is to communicate. So it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every week, even. But if you make it a point to communicate with them, at least I would say, even if it's like a realistic amount, could be once a month or once every 2 months. It could just be
Yeah.
you checking in on them. How are you
Yeah.
doing? How are things? Um, some of the people that I speak to, like, I could be talking to them about their children, or if they've told me in the past that they've gone on holiday, even if I haven't had a chance to check in with them straight after they got back, like the next time I speak to them, oh, how was your holiday that we spoke about? People that will then they will remember that, and they will remember, okay, Miriam remembered what I said that
Yeah.
time, or Trixie remembered that. You then take the relationship to the next level, and over time you will realize you will bond with that person in different ways. um I think another tip which I always advise is seeing if you could schedule like a virtual coffee. And this this is a very kind of like, I wouldn't say time sensitive, but if you connect with somebody, try and get a virtual coffee with them at least, let's say, within the first month, within, depending on their availability. And the reason why that's good is because you take it from just chatting, like, through a messaging box, to then actually seeing them face to face.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the statistics, so I don't know the science behind it. But what I can say is that even working in sales, there's a difference between emailing and seeing somebody on a call. That in
Absolutely.
itself, you could build a very powerful relationship. You could build a rapport. You could also share more than just emailing and going back and forth. So
Yeah.
every person that I network with, and if I want to really build a key relationship with you, everyone will tell you that Miriam will definitely make it a point to dedicate time for a virtual coffee. Um, I always try to do that. And I think that's what's helped me really build relationships, powerful and strong relationships, not just for the short term, but for the long term.
Amazing, and that's true, because when you're just on email, sometimes you sound so formal. Like, even if you're not trying to sound formal, you sound so formal. And if you want to sound informal, you might come out as rude, or sometimes
Yeah,
the other person can take it rude. Like, if you want to sound a little informal, it's very difficult to maintain that good tone in an email. And it's always good to have see someone and talk to them, because sometimes your nature, your smiling faces could just connect with each other, and you just click. Yeah.
exactly. Just seeing your smile, and yeah, yeah,
A
it
lot of
works.
times it happens to me, when I start my work, and just on emails, I'm like, especially when you're feeling low or something like that, just doing the
Mm,
emails makes you feel more sick, like that. But like, if I have a meeting, and then sometimes, because they come with like a good energy, even if you don't have like a high energy, and then seeing the other person with good energy, it gets transferred, right? And then
exactly.
and that meeting onwards, maybe you'll have a different mood, maybe you'll be energized. So it's always good to connect someone with someone, like face on face or in person, right?
Exactly. It's so important. It's so important. And I think just to add to what you just said, Tripti, like COVID happened a few years back, and I think we are still sometimes in the mindset of just texting or
Mhm.
emailing and things like that. But I think, especially now more than ever, social interaction is so key. So if you
Yeah,
can get somebody face to face, like, or over a Zoom call, over a Google Meet call, then you could just take networking to a whole different level. And as you said, you'll probably notice very quickly that during your next conversation, you won't feel as anxious, and you would have broken
yeah,
the ice very easily. So that's just a quick way of just taking it to the next level and building long-term relationships rather than
yeah,
short-term relationships.
absolutely true. And also, you mentioned about being confident, or like someone in your network, like your a teacher, for example, helped you build your confidence, right? So now, how much are you confident right now while building your network, that'll help you with your career? And are there any tips that you can share with our viewers in order to build that confidence they can use, while networking?
Yeah. So I would say confidence. Now I would never say I'm 100% confident, because I'm a person that always wants to grow and develop, and I
Yeah,
never want to feel like I've arrived completely. So um but I would say I'm fairly confident when it comes to networking and just in myself. But I'm a human being, so there's going to be days where you may have imposter syndrome, or you may
yeah,
feel like, and for those of you who may not know, imposter syndrome is sometimes where your mind can play tricks on you, and you may feel like you're not worthy, or you're not capable of doing something, whether it's public speaking, or if a job has given you a particular task at work, you may be like, I can't do it. So there are moments like that in my journey, but this is the reason why it's so key to have the right people around you in your network. Because, for example, you may have what I call cheerleaders. So when you don't feel like yourself, or where you may lose confidence, they will be the ones to remind you, Tripti, you could do it. You're perfectly capable. They will give you that confidence. And that's key. I would also say one of the things that and it's something that I'm very mindful of discussing, but I've done in my personal life, is therapy. Therapy is something that I'm a huge advocate for. Now, therapy doesn't necessarily mean you have to have gone through trauma or
Yeah,
like a difficult event, but therapy can help some people uncover certain things that may stop you from doing certain things. And I
yeah,
think sometimes we just expect to just like take in information. I could watch a whole YouTube video about how to be confident, but I could have some deep rooted issues that I haven't addressed that could prevent me from really becoming the best version of myself or becoming fully confident. So I am a huge advocate of therapy, and I do believe that people should take advantage of therapy, irrespective of where you're at in your life or where you're at in your journey, to just help you really ultimately become the best version of yourself. Um, but to answer your question, I am fairly confident right now. But as I said, there are moments where I'm up and down, um, as with any normal person. But I've got a phenomenal community, a phenomenal network who always remind me of where I'm at. And I think one thing that I also do, and I posted about it on my LinkedIn, I believe yesterday, is take moments of like gratitude in
yeah.
life. Take moments where you appreciate where you're at. Even if you've, let's say, gone to your first networking event and you've spoken to one person, reflect on that, because you may not have been able to do that 3 months ago, 6 months ago. So taking a moment in life to just pause and really give yourself that credit, rather than thinking, I'm only going to give myself credit to like in terms of networking once I build my dream network. No, it could be a little step that you've taken that you really should just remind yourself you've done amazingly, and that should help motivate you and give you confidence every step of the way whilst you're building your network.
That's amazing. I think I'll take that with me from today's session, along with everything else, and maybe I'll just do a post of gratitude, something that I've achieved so far. Let's say in a couple of months or year. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's that time for me now to take like sit down and go back to my experience level, or my whatever I feared doing and that I'm doing right now. So thanks for that. I'll take that with me, and maybe I'll have a post soon on LinkedIn about my gratitude, or being grateful for what I'm doing right now. So thanks. And yeah, I really want to appreciate you for giving us this time and sharing your insights with us. But unfortunately, we do have some time limitations, which is why we have to bring the session to an end. However, before we wrap this up, I really would like to give you some time again to maybe add on few more tips that you want to give to our viewers, which you haven't already, or a little advice from you that would help them in their journey or their career.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tripti, and thank you again for having me. So what I would say is definitely breathe. Building your network is an ongoing thing. So breathe. There's so much support around who could like help you. So even now that you've come across myself, please do, if you want any advice or any tips moving forward, feel free to connect with me, and I'm more than happy to support in that way. I would also say, as I've mentioned earlier, really always remind yourself that you need to be your true self. And I think that in itself will just make it easier, rather than having to pretend you're somebody else. And I think, as I've mentioned earlier, like the reason why that's so important is because that helps you connect with the right people. You
Yeah.
never want to be connected with people that are misaligned to you. So even if you look at my network and the people that are around me, you will very quickly notice that we have very similar values or very similar career ambitions, or
Mhm.
how we are just generally as people. It could be that we're very caring, we're very selfless. All of these traits, these are the kind of people that I've attracted because I've always networked being my true authentic self. So
Mhm.
that's that. And I would also say enjoy it. Really, really take the time to enjoy the journey. Like, it is scary, but as I've mentioned, every step that you take and every positive move that you make, take the time to just give yourself a hug. pat yourself on the shoulder and remind yourself that you're doing amazingly. You know, every step forward in building your network is a positive thing that you should always acknowledge. So those are just some final tips that I would give.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Miriam. And to all of our viewers, I hope this was beneficial for you all. And maybe now you can start getting into the practice of networking and using that as a leverage to grow your career. Yeah. And yes, if you're looking for opportunities where you can network, we will have a lot of events upcoming, both in person and virtual. So yeah, go feel free to log on to Tech Jobs Fair and check out the events, upcoming events, where you can leverage this opportunity and grow your network. So thanks again so much, Miriam, for joining us, and it was a pleasure having you today. And I hope we will connect again sometime later, maybe on another topic. Come again for another session. Thank you so much once again, Miriam, and have a lovely week ahead, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for joining. Take
Yes,
care.
thank
Bye.
you, everyone, and I'll see you all again. Until next time, bye bye.
Bye.